very big development updates today that had a significant impact on Animal Farm. We made some very strong progress as far as marketing goes, which will be playing out starting next week. And we also made progress on the fiat on-ramp as well. So we finished kind of the last meeting we had to do regarding that, just to figure out what the transaction flow would be, KYC for individual users, what the limits would be, how we can set it up so people aren't getting taxed multiple times on tokens that there's tax associated with it, all of these kinds of things. So we got that meeting out of the way, and we're ready to move on a ton of different things. So I'm just going to give it a couple minutes for people to come in. At like in 2 minutes, I'll unmute and we'll get it going. Well, I should also say that obviously this is an Animal Farm AMA, so that's where the focus is going to be. But I do plan on announcing a drip specific AMA on Monday, so we'll do that as well. I'm going to be going over the questions that people submitted over the week. The DAO group picked out a few that they saw, being repeated multiple times. So that's what we'll start with. Let me just pull that up. On Friday, we had 4 meetings with developers, both front and back end developers that we're looking to bring onto the team, because we have so much that we either have built or built from a back end but not a front end perspective, or built but still needs to be tested, or the logic has been worked out for it but it hasn't been built, or the design for UI has been done but the code has not been implemented yet. So we're at various stages of development. We have, I would say, 4 products now that are ready to go to some degree. For example, Dog's Roulette game. The back-end work is 100% done. It needs the dashboard to be completed. The pigs. So the way that we're going to deploy things from now on is going to be completely different from how we've deployed things in the past. Especially now, because we want to get a few strong deliveries out of the way, where we set a deadline, we meet the deadline, it's a flawless execution of deployment, and we just really show the ability to execute. We're not going to be pushing some of these things that we want to push just kind of haphazardly. So, for example, the pigs governance voting. Well, let me speak to what we did the past week, right? So people just get an idea for what we did and what we have coming and how we'll execute on what we have coming. So 1 second. Okay, so this week, our heavy focus was on auto compounding of the dog pound. So we initially launched the Dog Pound, and it's completely innovative tech. So when I say innovative tech, I don't just mean that we're the first people to do an auto compounding contract, because that clearly isn't true. But we are the first people to do an auto compounding contract where the asset that you're earning at the end of the auto compounding is not the asset that's being compounded. So to do something like this, it took completely innovative tech. So the reason for this is because, say you have an auto compounding contract. This is going to get a little bit technical, but I know the people that are here right now are people that are tuned in, so I'm going to go into it anyways. So say you have an auto compounding contract where you're staking BNB. This stake then earns, say, cake, and now this cake that's being earned is being sold for BNB and put into your principal. And this is how all auto compounding contracts work up until Dog Pound. And it's a very, well, maybe not very, but it's a relatively easy thing to do, because all you have to do is track the share value of every user. So when someone deposits onto your contract, the contract gives each user a share based on the amount of tokens, in this case, the amount of BNB they have staked. And then there's something called a round mask value, which determines what each share is worth. So if you have half the BNB on the contract, then this might say, okay, you have this many shares, you have half the shares on the contract, then you get half of the cake that the contract earns. And then it just, as soon as that cake is earned, it sells it, and it gives half the BNB that was just earned to this person because they have half the shares. And this is an easy thing to do. And with contracts, smart contracts, you need to have it so every individual is updating the state of their own stake on the contract. Because if you're doing it so every time someone does a transaction or every time someone does some sort of deposit, it needs to now update the state of every user on the contract. That costs gas, and it's more data that needs to be processed on the chain. And the more people that are in the contract, the more data this costs, and it's going to get very expensive, and eventually it will fail because you can only process so much data per block. So when you have a regular auto compounding contract, that's not an issue, because whenever someone does a deposit or someone does a withdrawal or someone does a claim, what they're doing is updating the state of the contract for themselves. So they're changing the share value that they have. And then when they change the share value, now the contract updates. And it updates by taking whatever tokens that are being earned, and it claims them for everybody. It allocates them to everybody based on what their share is. And then for this specific person that just did the action, they're updating their own share value by themselves. And now, say it's an auto compounding, they're also paying for the tokens that were just claimed to be used to buy BNB in this case. And then that BNB is added to everybody's principal. So it's a state where everybody is updating the share value of their own stake by themselves, and it doesn't need to update everybody's state every time you do a transaction. But when you have it so a auto compounding contract is allowing you to stake one asset. This one asset is earning a secondary asset and then using it to buy the asset that you had staked, in this case dogs, and now creating an LP, which is earning a secondary asset, or in this case, a third asset now. And this third asset is not what's being sold to compound into your stake. Then you have another asset that you need to track the value of. And this third asset that you're tracking the value of is not based on your share value, because the amount of dogs that you have staked does not necessarily mean or does not necessarily represent the amount of pigs that you're owed, because you can have dogs staked and you can withdraw the LPs, and now the next time pigs are paid out and allocated, it can't pay you the amount of it can't determine the amount of pigs that you're owed based on your dog stake, because it's based on your LPs and you don't have any Ps anymore, so you withdrew them. So this takes something new to be able to implement something like this. And the way we did it was through having a secondary round mask, which is storing every day and keeping track of the amount of pigs that are owed for that 24-hour period. So it claims the pigs once every 24 hours, and it now knows how much those 24 hours worth of pigs are owed to people based on what that day's stored round mask is. And this way, everybody's state is being updated by themselves, and we're not needing to store the value of every user on the contract, which would be impossible. After we got more than, say, 10,000 users, it just wouldn't work anymore. The gas would be too intensive, and we couldn't process that much data on a block. So with the system we implemented, which is completely innovative and brand new, we have two round masks. One round mask is representing how much value each share is worth, and these shares determine how much LPs to allocate you once a day. And then we have a secondary round mask, which stores once a day. Every 24 hours, it stores a new one. And this stored round mask now just tracks, okay, you were owed this much pigs when they were claimed on this 24-hour period, this much pigs, which are claimed on this 24-hour period. And now when someone withdraws their LPs, it now reduces the share price for that period for them. And because this is such innovative tech, we needed to pay very close attention to it for a period of time to make sure that it's working in the way that we implemented and the way that we designed for it to work and the way that it worked in testing. Because no matter how much you test things, it's always going to be, it's never going to be to the extent that something plays out on LiveNet with, hundreds of thousands of users and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of capital. You can do your best, and you can ensure, if you're doing it correctly, you can ensure that there's no major exploits, no major bugs. Investor capital is not at risk, at which we did, obviously. And you can go above and beyond with testing, which we did, but still, you're going to learn things when it goes live on mainnet. So we went live on mainnet, and what we determined was that pigs could be allocated to stakers in a more optimized way. So they were staying on the contract for too long, which means that they were not being allocated to the users and compounded into their stake soon enough. So we realized this a few days after launch, just by monitoring everybody, monitoring every transaction. And it took, because the first 24 hours, no rewards are being allocated. And then LPs are allocated after the first 24 hours. And then after the first 48 hours, pigs are allocated. So that's why it took 3 days, because it takes 3 days for these things to even play out. So we realized, okay, everybody is getting everything that they're supposed to be allocated, but it could be more efficient. So they're being allocated to people faster, so they're immediately being allocated to people instead of sitting on the contract and being owed to people. So we optimized this. When we optimized this, we got it so people, it increased the pigs that they were being allocated by like 900x, just because instead of that other 900x worth of pigs sitting on the contract, they were immediately allocated to people. Now, there was still a slight divergence between what you could earn in the regular dogs B&B pool versus in the auto compounder. And this is just because of the way that the pigs were allocated, because of the slight delay on how they're allocated due to the innovations that we made, and to ensure that it worked properly, there's a 48 hour delay. So because of this, it still meant that people in the auto dog pound were earning slightly less per day than people that were just putting dogs B&B into the regular farm. And when people stake in the auto compounding, the LPs that you're earning in there go into a regular dogs B&B stake. So it's not that they were actually earning less. It was just that it was allocating to them slower. So effectively, over a period of time, you would get slightly less. So we made some adjustments a couple days ago to even further optimize the way that the LPs and pigs are allocated to users in the auto dog pound. And now it's 1-to-1. So if you put dogs into the auto dog pound, they earn LPs, and now these LPs are earning pigs for you. They're earning pigs at a rate that is 1-to-1 with if you put dogs B&B into the dogs farm. So this is very important, because we don't want a scenario where people are incentivized to withdraw the LPs from the auto dog pound and manually putting them into the dogs B&B farm. Now, why do we not want to incentivize people to do that? Simply because you're earning in the auto dog pound based on if you had those LPs and if you had those dogs in the contract for a 24-hour period. So if someone is withdrawing their LPs once a day, that most likely means, unless they're timing it perfectly, which people aren't, we see that people aren't, then they're in those LPs are in the auto dog pound for hours, maybe earning. But then when they manually withdraw those LPs and put them into the dogs B&B farm, whatever hours they were in the auto dog pound for before they withdrew the LPs, they were earning pigs, but now they're not going to actually get allocated to them because they withdrew those LPs before the 24-hour period was over. So for the user's sake, we want to ensure that they're not incentivized to manually do this, because they're going to be losing out on some earnings. So now it's 1-to-1 earnings, and this means it's extremely bullish to be in the auto dog pound, because every day you're being compounded into the dog's B&B pool, increasing your share, experiencing compounded growth, which is increasing the amount of pigs that you are earning and being allocated every day at an exponential rate, which is extremely powerful. And unlike every other project that's doing auto compounding, this is the first auto compounding contract that actually provides positive growth and positive price impact on the asset that's being auto compounded. So there's a ton of other projects with compounding, and almost all of these projects that do compounding put increased sell pressure on the asset that's being compounded. With our platform, the compounding is coming from B&B that's so instead of people earning more dog tokens, for example, which are then compounded into the position, which increases their ability to earn dog tokens, right? You see how this kind of system eventually makes it adds a ton of sell pressure, would add a ton of sell pressure for dogs. But in this case, the B&B is coming from people that sold dogs and is taking it, and instead of giving it to the person who sold dogs, it's compounding it back into the dog's liquidity pool. So it's causing buy pressure for the dog token every time it compounds. So, and on top of this, the pigs that are being earned from it are not increasing in supply. They're not inflating the supply in order to pay out this compounded yield. So the more auto compounding happens in the dog pound, the more the dog token is able to appreciate, and the more positive price impact there is on the dog token. And the pig token, which is being earned at a compounded rate, has a set emission rate, which means that emission rate will not be increasing as people earn compound interest there. So you don't have to worry about the pig token being minted at an exponential rate or at a compounded rate as people earn compound interest in it. No, there's a set emission rate on pigs, and the set emission rate on pigs is based on the decentralized dynamic supply control algorithm, which will ensure that this emission rate is always a sustainable rate, and it can even become a deflationary rate and when I say deflationary rate, I mean that the rate is low enough that the other mechanics in the system are removing it from circulation at a faster rate than it's being emitted. So it's the first auto compounding contract that adds buy pressure and demand for both the asset that's being compounded and the asset that's being earned. And the reason why it's adding buy pressure to the asset that's being earned is because when the dog token is sold, which creates the B&B for the compounding, it's being sold and the tax applied to it is swapped for B&B and BUSD, and the B&B goes right back to adding buy pressure to dogs and paying out B&B rewards, and the BUSD goes to the piggy bank. It goes to the pig pen to further incentivize people who are earning their pigs to stake them and utilize them in the system. So this is why the auto dog pound is so important. It adds so much additional value to the system, and we've spent the past week just optimizing it and ensuring that the people that are utilizing it are getting value that is on par with any other option in the animal farm. So, it's at least 1-to-1 with the dog's B&B pool, but the fact that you're earning compounded interest in it makes it that much more powerful than the regular dog's B&B pool. And it's, of course, staking into there anyways for you. So now, I wanted to say that because obviously I want to give a technical update, but now I could talk about what we're doing moving forward. So currently right now, the dog's B&B vault. So the dog pound, when the dog token is swapped, the B&B and BUSD, which is generated, go towards the B&B vault for the dog pound and the BUSD vault for the pig pen. Now, the B&B vault for the dog pound allocates that B&B based on the share of users across the linear and the auto pool. So if there's an equal amount of people in the dog pound and in the auto pool, and you make up 10% of the linear pool, that means you make up 5% of the linear and auto pool combined. So you would get 5% of the B&B that's allocated to the dog pound. So whenever anybody does a deposit or withdrawal or anything with a 5-minute cooldown, just so it's not constantly being called, it takes the B&B that is available to be paid to the dog pound based on its 3% rate, right? So it's paying out that B&B at a rate of 3% a day over time, over the course of the day. So however much B&B is available based on this rate, when someone does a deposit, it then issues that B&B to the dog pound based on the share for each user relative to the dog pound as a whole. They're not treated as two separate pools. The auto dog pound and the linear dog pound are treated as one dog pound when it comes to the way the B&B is allocated. Now, what we will be doing, and we're gonna be completely different with the way we set deadlines and the way that we set launches and how we do deploying and everything like that. So what we're going to be doing is allocating 10% of the B&B per dog in the linear pool to the dog pool, to the auto dog pound. So it's going to create a 20% spread, where if you have one dog in the linear pool and you have one dog in the auto compound dog pound, the dog in the linear pool is going to get 10% less B&B, and the dog in the auto is going to get 10% more B&B. So we're giving a 10% weighting to the auto dog pound, and this creates a 20% spread. So effectively, dog for dog in the dog pound, you're going to get 20% more B&B allocated to you per dog in the auto dog pound than in the linear dog pound. And this is to further cement the utility and the value that the auto dog pound adds to the platform as a whole. So I knew from day one that the auto dog pound would be very important, and it would add way more value to Animal Farm than the linear pool. And this is why we set it so you're reducing your tax at a rate that's 25% faster if you're in the auto dog pound. So after analyzing the data and spending the past 2 weeks really watching how the dog pound works on mainnet with hundreds of thousands of users and millions of dollars worth of capital going into it, we realized that the system will strongly benefit from this 10% shift of B&B allocation per dog into the auto dog pound. And this is going to make it so the auto dog pound, when it comes to where you want to stake your dogs, is by far the most attractive place. And that's what we want because it supports the price of dogs and the price of pigs and the platform as a whole more than any other place that you can stake your dogs by far. So it's just about aligning user incentive with platform incentives and the overall performance of the platform. And we don't want to make any big changes because, I mean, it's working perfectly. We've just optimized it to make it be even stronger. And, it doesn't need any big changes. There's already a significant amount of people in the auto. But making this this one last slight shift is, I believe, the last kind of thing to cement the value case and the attractiveness of the auto dog pound. So this will be implemented, and also the governance voting system for the pig pen will be implemented next. These are the two things that we're going to be implementing next. And we've been working, my front end and back end dev and myself and BP, who's our project manager, have been working very hard when it comes to making the UI as functional and attractive as possible, and ensuring that the dog pound is as optimized and as functional as possible. So that's really what we've been doing over the past week. And now the front end dev is making a ton of improvements to the UI. For example, expected earnings and projected earnings. It says coming soon there. That's something that's being done right now. The emissions, so it says what the current emission setting is for the farms and the pools, based on the DCCA, and all of these other dashboards and analytical tools are being completed right now from a UI perspective, and it requires a new contract to be able to do a slight allocation variance per dog in the dog pound to make that adjustment. So it's a new manager contract, which just basically acts as an intermediate between the vault and the dog pound. So that's being done right now, and the governance voting system is being done right now. But we're not going to deploy these in a way where people just wake up one day and it's deployed. We're going to handle it like a launch, like any other product release. This way, we can get the excitement out of it, and the optimal promotion impact, and also so people in our investor base, we're speaking especially to people outside of our investor base, because we know that you guys are hardcore supporters, you guys are big investors, you guys know the vision, and you guys have a very similar vision as us. But I think that some of you probably realize this as well, and of course I realize this, when you have delays on launches, and you have one delay and another delay and another delay, people come to expect delays, and there's a loss in confidence, and people start to go from I'm ready to launch, or I'm ready to get in at launch, to let me sit on the sidelines and see how it goes. And although we've retained a large amount of our user base due to the previous delays, I know that there were some people that went from the I'm going to get in immediate launch to I'm going to wait on the sidelines. And the way that you speak to them and the way that you solve this is by having is by setting deadlines and meeting deadlines and executing flawlessly. So what we're going to do is set up a couple easy milestones for us to be able to announce, set specific deadlines, make countdowns, and then as soon as that countdown is 0, it goes live. It's flawless, it's functioning, and everybody's happy, and it raises the confidence of everybody, including the people on the sidelines. And we're going to nail out a couple of these, right, with some of the products that we want to launch, and then we're going to go right into strategy. So what we have next is the increased BNB allocation of the auto dog pound, the pigs governance, so the pigpen voting system, and a massive UI update where all of those extra things that that we've wanted to do and people have been waiting for, yeah, and the things that say coming soon, for example, like the projected and daily earnings, will all go live. So we're going to wait until all of this stuff is 100% complete and ready to go. And then we're going to give a week countdown deadline. And then as soon as that deadline, hits 0, as soon as we hit it, we go live with everything at the same time. So right now, I could say that we're going to go live with the pigs voting and these updates in 2 days, or maybe even tomorrow. And I know people want it to get done as soon as possible, so this would create some excitement, but it wouldn't have as positive of an impact as if I wait 2 days until it's 100% done, and then I say we're going live with it in 1 week. Here's the date, here's the deadline. We do hard promo of it all week, and then when we hit that deadline, we launch it flawlessly, perfectly, and everybody sees, oh, they set this deadline, they hit this deadline, it launched flawlessly. And then we do it again, maybe with the dogs roulette game, or with the single asset lending option. We completely build it out. We give a date for it. We heavily promote it for a couple weeks. And then we have flawless execution on that launch date. And what this is going to do is make the people that are waiting on the sidelines want to get back in, because they see, hey, now every time they set a date, every time they do a deadline, they're meeting it and they're executing flawlessly. Let me get in on the next one. I've been waiting on the sidelines, being indecisive. They need some trigger to get them in, and having these set product releases with flawless execution that are promoted properly and launched properly on the deadline will be the triggers to get those people in. So in the next couple days, this stuff that I just mentioned will be done, and then we'll set a deadline. But I've this is all about growing and learning. And previously, in the past, I had the perspective that we want to get things out the door as fast as possible. We want to create as much promotion, as much hype for them as possible. So we need to be talking about them as early as possible. And as soon as they're ready to go, get them out the door. So I was waiting until they were 80% done, 90% done, then giving a deadline for them so we could be promoting for them as the development was being wrapped up, with the plan that the development would be wrapped up like a week before we're ready to go. And then we've kind of front run the development process with marketing. So as soon as it's developed, we're like a week away from the deadline and we can go live. But when you do this, when you're 80%, 90% done, it causes the potential for delays, because that last 85%, 90% could be the part that that gives you an issue. And in the case of Animal Farm, it wasn't a case of a technical issue. It was the case of we were 90% of the way done, and then one of my core devs disappeared. And it meant that I had to bring on 2 additional developers and bring them up to speed and teach them every aspect of the contracts and all of that. So that ended up causing the delay. So I've completely, learned and grown from that. And we will never set a date if something is 90% done or 99% done. It's when it's 100% completed and ready to go, that's when we set the date. So handling it like this is going to make it that much easier to set deadlines and to meet deadlines, because even if we have a case where a developer disappears after we set the deadline, well, the development is finished. So, it's we can still meet that deadline. Or, a technical issue. Well, we're not setting deadlines until everything has been audited and fully tested. So, the probability that some technical issue comes up is extremely low. So, these are the changes that we're making from a development perspective and from a team management perspective. So that's, I think, extremely bullish, because it means that when we set these deadlines in the next couple days for these next couple products coming out, that we're going to deliver on those products when we hit 0, when that countdown is over, and then we're going to go right to the next one. So what we have coming up next is a bunch of UI updates and a bunch of UI improvements that would be pushed all at once. We have the optimization of the dog pound, which was done, but now an increased B&B allocation for the auto pool. So that will be going live, and the pigpen voting. So in the next couple of days, we're going to set a date for that. We're going to set a date 1 week out, and then we're going to go live with that. Now, we have a Medium article that's going to be coming out on Monday, and we're going to be releasing a Medium article every Monday, which goes over everything that was done the previous week, any of the technical aspects of it that maybe can't be properly expressed in a voice call in the AMA, such as links like a BSC scan link, so you can look at transactions, and the more detailed side of stuff will be in these Medium articles. And the Medium articles are being written by members of our community who can speak more to the perspective of the investor and the users of the system. So those are coming out every Monday. We already have this Monday's one written and ready to go. We have a meeting on Monday with the PR firm that we've been working with to decide whether we're going to implement them and bring them on board, retain them essentially. And we are highly, highly confident that we will retain them. They work with some of the biggest ETFs and some of the biggest funds in the world. And what they do, which is perfect for us, is not paid marketing positions. So it's not like you pay them and they find Bloomberg for you and they pay Bloomberg $20,000 for a TV position or an article. That's not what they do, right? What they do is work with journalists who are looking for people in the financial industry to speak to specific news events. So, for example, say they have a fund, an ETF that they're representing that is big into silver mines, let's just say, just to give something completely unrelated to crypto. And there is some sort of major weather event that destroys a bunch of silver mines. And now the Wall Street Journal wants to do a story about this and wants someone with some insight about how this could affect the market and what the Wall Street Journal readers want to hear. So they go to this firm, and this firm is very, very well known and represented as someone that they can go to for this kind of thing. So they're like the top people in finance that people go to for this, that news outlets go to for this. And they go to this firm and say, hey, we want to do a story about this major news event that wiped out all of these silver mines. Do you have anybody you're working with that is an expert that can speak to this? And the PR firm says, yes, we have an ETF that specializes in investing in silver. We can have the manager of this fund come on and do a piece, speak to your journalists about this specific case with a specific knowledge. And the Wall Street Journal person says, awesome, great, set up a meeting. Now the person who runs this fund speaks to the Wall Street Journal person, gives their insight about the specific news event, and it's mutually beneficial because the Wall Street Journal gets a story about this news event with the insight of someone that has direct knowledge of the space. And for the person who runs the fund, it's a opportunity to speak about the knowledge base that you have as the owner of the fund and the opportunities that your fund provides relative to that story. And we will be the first crypto-related project that they have worked with because they are big players in traditional finance, but they recognize that crypto and DeFi is the future. We have a mutual connection, someone that's worked with them for, I think, the past 20 years, who made a connection for us. And they are very excited to represent us because all of these stories in the news now about DeFi and about crypto, they now have someone to go to that they can, when they have the Wall Street Journal or Bloomberg come to them and say, hey, we need a story about this FTX thing. You have someone that will have some insider knowledge about the space. They can say, yes, we do. We have this founder of a major DeFi platform. Actually, the utility of this platform speaks directly to the current situation in the market, and he can come on, he can give his insight, and as a as kind of a side of doing that, promote why their platform is the solution to this and why their platform is a value add that speaks specifically to the current situation in the space. So this is very big for us. And there, I'm going to hold off on saying who the firm is because I don't want every shitcoin dev and every shit crypto project out there to be contacting them, trying to retain them, right? So we're going to keep that close to chest. But what they're offering is a couple large placements a month, right? So that means that we're going to strive for getting at least 2 major mainstream media promotional events a month. And we're going to work with our manager. So right now we have a marketing manager and we just brought on a marketing advisor. So we're about to really change the game when it comes to marketing, right? Because we've had a marketing manager who has helped, but he's been over his head trying to run everything from a marketing perspective, doing tracking analytics, making connections with new marketing opportunities, tracking the budget, doing all of the accounting, managing all of the social media campaigns, finding new influencers, doing outreach to these other marketing firms that we're working with, just trying to control the narrative, making and scheduling the marketing plan. I mean, it's so much for one person. And also his experience, the person that we've been working with, his experience specifically is running paid marketing campaigns on social media. So like running YouTube ads and stuff like that, not specifically marketing management, but we needed someone to come on to help with marketing. So until we could find someone better for running that management role, we brought him on. Just like I needed help with project managing, so I brought Stonecutter on, who's someone that doesn't have any experience doing project managing, but is someone that I knew I could trust, someone that I knew that would just help take some of the management weight off my shoulders. So we brought him on, and he stayed on for about 4 or 5 months until we found BP, or until BP stepped up, who actually has project managing in technical engineering, like exactly what we need. And since he's been on, it's just been like, huge progress. But a lot of this progress are things that take time to develop. It's establishing connections. It's further aligning the way that our team communicates and does management and allocates workflow and brings new users onto the team and does hiring and better communication between the team. These are things that are not immediately available to the average user, but make a huge difference from a team efficiency standpoint. And 1 month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, will make an exponential impact on our ability to deliver and do the things that we need to do. So, he's only been working with us now for a couple weeks, like a few weeks. We just brought on a marketing manager who actually has experience managing high-level crypto projects. So he was working for a very high-level crypto project. He ended up leaving them because he wasn't aligned with their delivery and the way that they were managing things. He just did not think that they had the users he did not think they were putting the users first, basically. And I don't want to speak too much to that because when he is public, when we talk about who he is, I don't want people to then tie the two together and think I'm talking bad about this other project. So let me just kind of leave it there. But he wanted to be working with a project that was really a true DeFi project that's really, community based, really doing the right things, really innovative. And he left this other project, and I saw an opportunity to maybe bring him on because we were looking for someone that was a high level manager. And we had him write basically a document about what he could provide to us. He wrote out a 7-page document, which was very detailed of all the things that he could and wanted to provide for us. He was very excited about coming on board because, Animal Farm and our ecosystem is exactly what he was looking for. An innovative project where he can still earn a good living, but it's actually putting the users first and really embodying what DeFi is supposed to be. So he was very excited about coming on with us, and he wrote out this documentation. It was very, very solid. We've spent the past week with meetings, both just with him. We had a meeting with the PR firm and him. We had a meeting with the current marketing manager that we've been working with and him. And we've agreed now that we're going to work together. So next week is going to be the first real push. Not with the full marketing team, because he's just coming on board. Like, we just onboarded him yesterday. We've spent the past couple weeks talking about it and working out the details and all of that, but we just onboarded him. So now he's going to be able to write out a very strong marketing plan for us. Basically, what we're going to do first is like a 6-week campaign that we're going to map out exactly what we want to do over the next 6 weeks, plan it out to detail with how we're going to handle the narrative, what specific events are going to be scheduled each day, how we're going to manage the budget to get the most effect for the least price, obviously, over these 6 weeks. And we're going to specifically target the narrative that speaks to the current news event right now. So that the reason why all of these centralized platforms are going down is due to misallocation of user funds, and misallocation of user funds is only possible when you have closed source, centralized, black box lending like they're doing, and that we are the solution that allows for decentralized yield generation without the possibility of capital misallocation or the possibility of insolvency, because we are non-custodial, which means every user has access to their own capital, and they're the only people that have access to their capital. So it's impossible for us to go insolvent because the user are the only people that can even access their funds. And it's impossible for us to misallocate funds because it's completely open source and the lending is completely automated. So everybody sees where the funds are going, how they're allocated, who has custody of them, and it's completely transparent, open book. And we're able to earn a yield which is higher than these centralized institutions because we're not charging these crazy high management and administration fees, largely because almost all of our management is automated. And the little part of it that's not automated right now is the way that the BUSD inject into the pig pen, but that will be automated over the next couple weeks. So but everything, anything that is actually having to do with user capital, user principal, how lending flows are done, all of that are automated, immutable, non-custodial, open source. So we are the solution to the current problems in the space. And we're going to be hitting this very hard. And we already have a very big article set for this coming week. I'm just going to be very careful about how I do messaging. So I just want to be very careful to not say, oh, we have something very big coming this week, and then it happens on Monday the following week or something like that. But we've paid for a major article that's supposed to be dropping next week. If they can drop it next week, they will be dropping it next week. If not, it'll be early the following week, but I believe it'll be this coming week. A major article, not a sponsored article, just an article where, so there's, whenever we're talking about finance and these articles, there's sponsored articles and those articles that you pay for, and then there's articles that are non-sponsored articles, and sometimes you may still pay for a non-sponsored article, or sometimes you don't pay for them, but basically they're articles where Wall Street Journal or Bloomberg or whoever, we're looking for someone to speak on this issue. And if they're already looking for someone to speak on the issue, and then you provide your insight on it, they'll not label it as a sponsored article. So this is a non-sponsored article, which is more bullish. It looks better on a major financial media platform. And we just secured it last week. It should be going live next week, but we'll see. It's really up to them when they publish it. And the plan is to hit hard a new mainstream media platform or major marketing player in crypto and in DeFi and in finance over the next 6 weeks, focusing on this narrative of how we're the solution to the current issues in finance, specifically crypto finance. So, as I said, the new person we brought on as an advisor to help manage our marketing, he just came on. So, of course, he's given his insight and all of that over the past week, but he's really going to be starting to put things together starting this up and coming week. So, it might take a week, it might take 2 weeks for him to really put something together that's very strong, and then have that be result in actually delivered events. But we're in a better position definitely than we've ever been, and I feel better than any other crypto project in the space because we have someone now that is extremely experienced, top of the line as far as marketing management. We have the current person that we're working with who's going to stay on board, who's very good about running social media campaigns as far as paid campaigns, and he's going to do a lot of the work that the person who's running management can't do, because it's just so much work for one person to do, and we're trying to reach a new level. So we really need at least 2 people to be handling these things. So one of them can work almost exclusively on from a management perspective and a communication perspective and a narrative engineering perspective, and the other one can be handling a lot of the running the YouTube campaigns and helping to track analytics and this kind of stuff. And then the PR firm that we're working with, who we've brought them on, but we're not officially going to be working with them until December, because we brought them on this week, or not this week, this month. But we start. It starts at the start of the month. So next month we bring them on, and that starts to really get going. And it's not just them getting placements for us. They're also going to be able to give us a lot of direction as far as how we can establish our media libraries to make them more available to people. Coaching for me about how to speak to the media, how to get my narrative across. Before I go on any major platform, say I'm about to go on Bloomberg to speak, and it's like a 7-minute window that I have, they're going to give me coaching on how specifically to get the info that I need to get across in those 7 minutes, relative to the person who I'll be speaking with, because they know all of the people that work on these platforms. They know how they're going to act. They know how I can, control the narrative, how I can push the subject to where I need it, given the specific person that I'm doing the interview with, because they know all these people. So, everything from coaching to analysis to placements, it's going to make a huge difference for us. And that starts on Monday. So from a marketing perspective, we're better than ever. I believe we're better set up right now than any other crypto project in the world. And it's just going to take a couple weeks for these things to really start to play out, because the new marketing manager just came on. He'll be starting to work on Monday. The PR firm will be starting with them in December. But, we have another meeting with them on Monday. So it's where they're still giving us advice now and really starting to prepare for next month. But they really start, putting pen to paper and gas in the tank on December 1st. Now, as far as the fiat on-ramp goes, we had a meeting with the fiat on-ramp to speak about things like transaction order flow, KYC, all of these things, to make sure that we can work with them and that the average user will actually benefit from it. And we also have some ideas about how we can do price breaks for people that buy in and go directly to our staking contracts. For example, if you use the fiat on-ramp to buy drip in a way that puts you immediately into the faucet, you get a 50% break on the tax, right? So these are things that we are that we're working out right now, just to give that much more value to the fiat on-ramp. But we want to make sure the fiat on-ramp, as soon as it's available, goes live. So most likely it's going to go live, and it's going to be just the just a fiat on-ramp, which is amazing, right? Because we don't want to say, oh, the fiat on-ramp is ready, but we're building some extra utility for it. No, we're going to have it go live as soon as it's ready, and then we'll add the extra utility for it. Now, let me just, I compiled a couple things about the fiat on-ramp. Let me just pull that up here. BP, if you're listening, check your DMs. Okay, so some of the questions that people asked, is there KYC with the fiat on-ramp? it's treated like if you were going to set up Oh, I don't know what happened. Apparently, Telegram just force muted me. Maybe I lost my connection and then connected back, so it muted me. I don't know where I dropped out, but let me just answer the question. So about a timeline for pigpen injections. I'll just answer the first part very quickly because I think that I was not muted when I initially said it. But so the pigpen injections from the lending, that will be done based on a vote of the governance pool, and that will be implemented very soon. I already spoke to it earlier. I'm not going to give an exact date until it's 100% finished and ready to go, I could right now give a date for like 3 or 4 days out, and we would be able to meet it, but I just don't want to do deadline setting that way anymore because we're growing, we're learning. So instead of saying we're going to do it in 3 or 4 days, what's likely going to happen is I'm going to give a launch date in 3 or 4 days, and that will be out for a week. And then when that launch time hits 0 and we hit the day, we go live, flawless execution, and everybody sees our ability to execute and execute flawlessly on time. So that's and then there will be a vote to determine how often the pigpen injections happen based on the lending, and we will automate it. Now, as far as the dog pound injections, this I want to handle in a way that is less predictable, because we're not just using it for injections. We're also using it to support the price of dogs. And I don't want to signal when we're going to be doing these price supports of dogs, because I don't want insiders and whales and people looking for short-term profit to be able to time the market and be able to time these injections into the liquidity pool of dogs. So that's going to be handled a bit different, but we have over $10 million worth of capital that can be used for both pigpen injections, dog pound injections, and to support the price of dog and pigs. And the way that the dog tax system works is everybody is having their tax reduced at a different rate, and it's going to be up to each individual person to determine when it makes sense for them based on the price and based on the tax that they now have based on the reduction, if it makes sense for them to sell dogs or not. And it'll be different for everybody because everybody's reducing their dog's tax at a different rate, and everybody got in at a different time. But of course, there's a nice bundling of people that all got in on day one and all got into the auto in day one. So they are all reducing their tax at around the same rate. And then there is going to be a moment where maybe one of them or 5 of them or whatever, a group of them, decide, okay, now it makes sense to sell. And then this might cause a bit of a wave where we have, maybe 10% of the people in the dog pound or 15% of the people in the dog pound decide, okay, now it makes sense to sell. But when they do that, it's not going to be when they reduce the tax all the way. First of all, you can't reduce the tax all the way. You can only reduce it down to 6%. But I doubt that this would happen when the tax is reduced to 6%, because someone could sell it the day before for a 7% tax and beat all those people. So there's always going to be someone that says, okay, I think tomorrow the tax, a bunch of people will have their tax reduced down to 6%, which is the most that you can reduce it. Let me sell today. I'll pay a 7% tax because I know if I sell tomorrow, those people will move the price down more than 1%. So it's worth me selling a day early and pay the 7% tax instead. And every individual is thinking this way, and it will cause a scenario where everybody is going to be trying to do a different strategy and have different timing. And some group of people will end up deciding that it's worth it for them to sell with a relatively large tax. But that's going to create a large injection into the dog pound and pig pen because of the tax that they're paying. And this is going to further incentivize the people that were saying, okay, maybe I'll sell in a couple days to now say, wait a minute, I don't want to sell now because other people are starting to sell, and I might as well stay in and start collecting this BNB and BUSD. So it's going to have this effect. But inevitably, there is going to be one period of time where a grouping of people decide that it makes sense for them to sell. And, once this initial kind of grouping happens, just based on the fact that we had a launch date, so there's a group of people that are all kind of reducing at the same amount. Once we have this initial kind of sell event, then it's completely up in the air where everybody's different and everybody's going at different rates. But we can more than offset this initial kind of sell wave by the over $10 million worth of capital that we have to support the price of dogs and do injections. So this is not a thing where we're trying to do let's just do an explosive month and do a cash grab and move on. This is a project that we have a vision for, that we have development plans to lay out over the next couple of years. And we want to use this capital effectively over time, not, just throw it all in there and 5x the price and then not have any more capital moving forward for this kind of thing. So I'm going to keep it, we're going to use it when it's most effective, and we're not going to signal much about when we are. But it's held in public addresses. Everybody can see it. Everybody can see that it's only being utilized to support the dog pound, pig pen, and price of dogs and pigs. And it will be used effectively for these things. Right. Now, all right, what impact do I expect the dogs roulette game to have on the price of dogs and pigs? I expect it to have a significant impact. The reason for this is because you can buy one bullet with a dog token, or you can buy bullets in bulk for a discount using BUSD. And when you do this with BUSD, all of it is used to buy dogs. And then those dogs sit on the contract waiting for people to play. And every time they play, every time they load up that 6-shooter and spin the revolver and pull the trigger, the dogs associated with that bullet go into the pot. And that pot keeps building up until someone hits the jackpot. And when someone hits the jackpot, 30% of the dogs which were bought and used to go into the pot are won by that user. 60% are burned, and 10% go into a jackpot treasury, which increases the jackpot for each round. And this means that it's adding buy pressure to dogs. It's not inflating the supply of dogs to pay out these rewards. And it's burning dogs at a greater rate than what it's paying out. So it's going to be extremely powerful for the dogs token. And anything that adds value to the dogs token adds value to the system as a whole. Okay, do I still intend to move forward with the single asset lending to Stargate? Am I considering other options for single asset lending? And what impact this would have on the utility of the platform? Okay, so currently we are going over a process of analysis on determining who we want to move forward with the single asset lending. We absolutely will be doing the single asset lending. We are considering maybe not going with Stargate. Now, Stargate is an awesome tool. They offer high yield for a single asset staking. They have a lot of big players, and they are DeFi, so it's low risk. Not all DeFi is low risk, but this is low risk. just how like PancakeSwap is low risk DeFi, just like how Animal Farm is low risk DeFi. There's high risk DeFi, there's low risk DeFi. This is low risk DeFi. Where the risk comes into play is that Alameda Finance bought out the Stargate presale. So they hold a significant amount of the Stargate tokens. Now, this does not mean that they can access the principal on the bridge. This does not mean that they can rug the bridge. What it does mean is they hold a significant amount of the supply of the token that the bridge pays as a reward. Now, why would this be an issue? Why wouldn't this be an issue? Why this wouldn't be an issue is because the way that our auto compounding system would work, because we would do it as an auto compounding mechanism. As soon as that token is earned, that Stargate token is earned, it's sold. And it's used to compound your position in the Animal Farm. So you have BNB staked in the dog pound single asset. No, sorry, I just said the dog pound. I meant the Animal Farm. So you have BNB staked in the Animal Farm single asset. You're earning dogs on it, which put you into the whole game theory of the Animal Farm and the incentive structure that allows it to perform greater than any other yield generating asset ever, and it lends that BNB to Stargate. Now, while you're in Stargate, you're helping to fill order flow on their bridge, and for doing so, you're earning yield in their Stargate token. This yield that you're earning in the Stargate token is sold for BNB. A portion of that BNB goes to the dog pound vault, and the other portion goes into your principal to increase your principal, increasing your stake in the Animal Farm and increasing the amount of BNB that you're lending to Stargate, which in turn increases the amount of the Stargate token that you're earning and the dogs that you're earning. And this allows you to auto compound both in the Animal Farm and into the Stargate platform without ever increasing the supply of dogs or supply of pigs, just by fully utilizing the value that we're earning on the back end through Stargate. So you're not at risk to the principal being rugged, right? As far as I understand it. Of course, we would do a ton more research on their system before we implemented it. But as far as I understand it, it's there's no exposure in that way. And you have little exposure to the volatility of the Stargate token, because as soon as it's earned, it's sold for either BUSD or BNB, depending on what single asset staking you're in, and it's utilized on our platform. If you're in the BUSD single asset staking, your BUSD gets lent to Stargate, it earns the Stargate token, and it earns dogs in our farm. It sells that Stargate token that you're earning for BUSD. It takes a portion of the BUSD, sends it to the Pigpen BUSD vault, and it takes the other bit of BUSD and it adds it to your principal on the platform. And it continues to increase your position both in the Animal Farm and in Stargate. So the risk is that they hold a ton of the Stargate token and they dump the Stargate token. Now, this isn't a risk in the sense that you'll lose a lot of your value, because the Stargate token that you're earning is being immediately sold anyways. So you're not holding Stargate tokens. But for the people that are in it, that are less savvy and are utilizing it in a less optimal way, who are just earning and holding Stargate tokens, they lose a ton of value. And they may not be interested in staying in the bridge anymore. And also the earnings moving forward would be a lot less, and people would start leaving the bridge. And in this case, not too big of a deal. It sucks, but we just changed who we're doing the back end lending to. But it's more of a lack of promotional opportunity because of what's going on with Alameda and a bit of exposure to the volatility of the Stargate token. But of course, we have not built this single asset lending contract yet. So before we build it, and when we start building it, we would go, neck deep into all of their contracts and really. So don't take me saying that your principal's not at risk in there and all this stuff as I've gone fully neck deep into all the contracts and understand every function of their contracts, right? I'm just going based on what they have said and what PancakeSwap has said as a platform. I've not extensively looked at their contracts yet, which of course we would do before we implemented anything like that. But because they are, Alameda Research has a large holding in their reward token, we are considering other options. And we couple solid other options that are recommended by Binance. If you go on Binance and try to use their bridge, Binance says we're a centralized bridge, but if you want a decentralized option, you can use this or this. We're looking at that or that other option, potentially using them instead, or potentially giving an option where you can use this or you can use this, and you can determine which one, which risk profile you want to go with. But I understand that if you think something is risky and you say, okay, I think it's risky, so I'm going to put that decision in the hands of the user, even if you put that decision in the hand of the user and they decide to go with the risky option, and then something happens with the risky option, even though you put the decision making in their hands and you give them the option, they're going to come for you. They're going to be blaming you. Like, why did you even give me this option? So we are not going to do anything that could potentially be a risk in that sense. So Stargate is a great option, right? It's just that Alameda Research connection, which we just have to consider. We have to really look at the contracts. We need to see how much exposure they have. Now, Alameda Research said that they locked up the Stargate tokens. So we have to look at the locking contract. If they locked it all and it's permanently locked, because they said they locked it because they're not interested in earning value from the trading of the Stargate token. They're only interested in holding it to have a majority ownership of it, and then they'll just earn their profit through fees and having this extra bridge that they can send people to. And if that's the case, and if they're fully locked and they can never access those tokens anyways, then maybe it does make sense to go with them. So this is just, yes, we're considering other options. We're going to go with the lowest risk option, regardless of yield, because we're about low risk over time, utilizing compound interest, and you can make more off of a utility that gives you 10% of the yield of another utility if it's lower risk, which gives you the confidence to put a bit more capital in there, and it lasts for a longer time, and you're taking advantage of compound interest. So if a platform you could make 10% of the yield that you're making in another platform, but if you're able to put a little bit more capital into the one that you're making 10% in because it's that much more lower risk, and you're able to take advantage of compound interest, very shortly you're going to be making a lot more from this one than the one that you would be making 10 times more yield in. Because the one you're making 10 times more yield in, if it's higher risk, you're going to put less capital into it. Maybe you don't want to continue to compound into it. Maybe you just want to get into it and just take your profit as it comes, so you're not just increasing your position into it. And these higher risk higher yield platforms are not going to last anyways. So, we're in it for the long term. And we understand that compound interest is very powerful. The key to it is keeping your risk low and being in there over time. Okay, let me see what the next one is. Okay, are the funds generated from back-end lending being utilized in the platform now? If not, when will it come into an effect? So they're being utilized in the sense that they are earning yield right now, and they're continuing to earn yield. Are they being utilized in the platform in the sense that they've been injected into the pig pen already? No. And when will that happen? When the governance voting system is implemented. And when that will happen, I already spoke to that. It'll be very shortly, but we're going to do it in a way where it doesn't just show up one day and we're just saying, oh, it's live. It's going to be, we're going to finish it, which is going to happen in the next few days. And then we're going to give a date for it. And it's going to be a very bullish launch with plenty of promotion and flawless execution. And we're going to set up a few of these in a row. So then when we do the real big launch, which is going to be Scratchy or a new Drip UI or, the next big launch, which will be Scratchy, people can get into it with confidence, knowing, okay, well, yeah, before they had delays and before, there were delays and stuff like that. But look, over the past 4 or 5 launches, flawless execution, right on time. And it's going to drive those people that are sitting on the sidelines back in. So also, everybody has to realize that we knew from day one that this game theory takes a couple months to play out, because a large portion of it is relevant to the trading volume on dogs. And in order to have significant trading volume on dogs, people have to be in the farm for a couple months before it even makes sense to start doing transactions on dogs. So, because the tax is only applied to sales. Also, deposit and withdrawal fees are what is generating a lot of the BUSD for the pig pen, for example. And a lot of the initial deposits into Animal Farm were done utilizing the migration contract from V1, which means those people did not pay any deposit fees. So you can expect a significant ramping up in fees due to the fact that every person that's coming on now is paying a fee, and the increased trading volume, which will be happening on dogs over the next couple of months, and the high-level marketing we're doing, and the fact that we'll be starting to do our BUSD injections, which we have not done yet, to the pig pen. So we're still in infancy mode, right? We're still in launch mode. We got a couple months before we even start having the game theory play out. And now's the time where the smart investors are accumulating their positions to take advantage of that when we are in full effect. Okay. Okay, people are saying, since there was a decent amount of cake, is the cake being utilized to earn additional yield? And yes, that cake was used to earn additional yield. The cake that's been earned in V1 has not been utilized to earn additional yield yet, because this is something that we want to automate. But for I don't know, 7 out of the last 8 months, yes, they've been the cake that's been sitting there has been earning yield as it's been sitting there. And in fact, I think I will manually do that, because we might as well, since it's just sitting there until we have the voting process happen. Okay, people asking about the referral system. So the way the referral system works is, if you refer somebody and you don't have capital, this is the way that basically all MasterChef referral systems work. If you refer somebody, and we have our systems are a lot of our things, such as a dog pound, all of that, are not MasterChef, and even our farms and pools, we utilize some of the MasterChef libraries, but there's so much more that we added and changed and customized that it looks way different than any kind of MasterChef you would look at, but we still utilize some of the tech that is MasterChef related, such as the referral system. So the way that the referral systems work are, if someone uses your referral code and you don't have a deposit yet, their transaction would fail. So the way that you fix this is, you have it so you have a default referral address, and this is the deployer address. And then if you make a deposit and you refer someone and they use your link, as long as you have a deposit already, it overrides the default referral address, and now you're being allocated those rewards moving forward. So when we launched like any other contract that would utilize the system with the default referral, and then as people made deposits and referred people, it overrode this. But if you gave people your referral address and then they deposited before you got in, it was allocated to the default one, because otherwise it would their transactions would fail. So to avoid any issues, we set it so it was default at launch, and then as people deposited and they referred, it overrode that system. And since launch, that's the way it is. So like now, if you were to deposit and refer somebody, it's you're going to get that referral bonus, but you don't get the referral bonus until they claim. You're getting a percentage of what they claim. So this is very important to do it this way, so it's not exploitable. Because if it was based on what they deposit, because we have a deposit and withdrawal fee, it wouldn't be exploitable. But if the referral amount was larger than the deposit withdrawal fee, you don't want it to be paid on the deposit amount. You want it to be paid on what's earned. And even if it's not exploitable, you still want to have it be based on what they've earned, because then you're ensuring that the people who are referring others have an incentive for them to be long-term participants. Because the longer they stay in, the more capital they have in, the more you're going to earn in referrals. So that's the way it works. The liquidity helper that is keeping the AFD price stable through arbitrage, is this profitable? If so, how is this revenue being used? So it's not arbitraging in the sense that it's buying dogs and selling dogs in the other pool. That's not happening. It's just buying dogs wherever you're going to get the most dogs. So yes, it's profitable, but this profit is being passed to the user who's buying because they're getting a better rate. And that's where the profit angle is ensuring that whoever is buying using our liquidity helper and using our, the buy tool on our site is getting the best rate. So that's how it works. And yeah, I mean, it's profitable in the sense that it's going to get you the best rate. And those are the main like top 10 questions that we had that are specific to Animal Farm. We're going to do a drip specific AMA next week. And there's, obviously, right, a lot of people, freaking out and, the whole thing about drip. People saying, why are you not paying more attention to drip right now? Have to realize that Animal Farm is 2 weeks old. We just launched Animal Farm. So, of course, that's where our focus is going to be. It's 2 weeks old. Like, we're in the launch phase of it. It's where all the updates need to be. It's where everything is happening right now. And I've been saying since way before we launched Animal Farm that I expected that we would launch Animal Farm. The attention would be on Animal Farm because it's the new thing. There would be a greater profit potential in it. And people would want to be getting into the drip BUSD pool who had drip, so they'd be selling some of their drip to make that pairing and get in. And others may sell drip to buy dogs or pigs or whatever. But this capital is not leaving the ecosystem. It's just migrating from drip into Animal Farm. And if you have properly evolved with the ecosystem, you're benefiting from that greater than anybody. And we're providing more utility to drip, which at first will not result in price appreciation, just for the simple fact that capital is migrating from drip to Animal Farm, but in the long run is better for drip than doing nothing for drip or having someone else, do this innovation and not including drip at all. It's better that we do this kind of, great innovation and create this amazing utility and include drip in it. And over time, it's creating more value for drip than it's a net positive for drip. And we have a couple of different products that we want to build for drip moving forward. And when we build these products for drip, that's where the attention will be. The attention will be fully on drip, fully promoting these new products, because it will be, hey, we just launched this product 2 weeks ago. So that's what we're talking about. So, these are long-term projects. These are drip is like almost, it's like a year and a half, almost 2 years old now, something like that. It's at least a year and a half old. So, people need to be rational. Because we take our attention off of drip for a couple months out of almost 2 years to do something which is going to be net positive for drip in the long term, you have to try to see the long-term vision with it. And you have to evolve with the space, right? If there is a profit opportunity to be had, but the capital remains in the ecosystem, try to get that edge. Try to evolve with it. But if not, if you just say, hey, I don't want to get involved with anything going on with Animal Farm, I just want to stay in drip. Well, now is your opportunity to take advantage of attention being off of drip to increase your position. So when the attention goes back onto drip, you will have gotten a bunch of cheap drip. But, there's you know, the people, I don't want to, there's an AMA coming up for drip next week, so I don't want to spend too much time talking about it, but people begged me when I initially developed drip, please keep drip exactly the way it is, because so many other projects came and had something similar to drip, and then they did something like change the ROI percentage or make some new referral thing that ended up just destroying the project, right? So I made that commitment from day one that the core mechanics of drip would never change, and I'm going to maintain this integrity, right? And anything we build for drip will be second layer implementations that add value to it. And sometimes these second layer implementations will take away attention from drip when they launch, because it will be the new thing. But in the long run, we're just building and adding more utility for drip, and this will compound, and this will have a net positive effect. But in the short term, it may cause volatility for drip. This is one of the reasons why it's important to me to ensure that drip and Animal Farm are treated as separate projects, because they both have their own use cases, their own utility. They're completely different kinds of projects. Drip gets gate kept very heavily from DAP radar, from BSC, whatever their rating service, and trying to get articles and all this stuff. It's heavily gate kept, and I want to ensure that this gatekeeping associated with drip does not tie down Animal Farm and does not prevent Animal Farm from being the best it can be. So this is another reason why I'm creating a clear distinction between the two. It's not because I want to leave behind Animal Farm. I mean, it's not because I want to leave behind drip. It's not because I don't think Animal Farm will positively impact drip. It's because I recognize that drip is heavily gatekept for a handful of reasons that are completely unfair, that completely make no sense, such as them saying that it's a multi-level marketing thing and all this stuff, right? But none of those